People hate the London. Not the city, but the chess opening. And why? The biggest gripe is that the opening is boring and beginners will play the London setup and think that they're great at openings. When in reality, they have no idea what they're doing and they have no plan. They just wanted to play the London because they don't want to deal with actually understanding chess openings. So I'm going to take you through a game where my opponent played the London and they got their setup and then they fell apart because they had no plan and they did not adhere to opening principles. What are the opening principles? It is to control the center, it is to develop your pieces, and take care of king safety. You have to do all three, and in this case, here I go d5 and c5 fighting for the center. And here, I actually have no specific prep against the London opening, but what I try to do in most cases is turn this into a Caro-Kann like structure. And you might be thinking, KD, what are you talking about? This is the London. You can't play the Caro-Kann against d4. And also, doesn't the Caro start with c6? Let me show you something really quickly. If you play the Caro-Kann and you get an advanced variation, a lot of times c5 is a thematic pawn push anyway. You're trying to undermine the center. And you get into a line like this. At some point, I may trade off the light square bishop and then play e6, and all of a sudden, I have all my pawns on light squares. And that's pretty much exactly what happens in this case because I played c5, and here we go. The bishop comes out, and my opponent goes into their London setup. I have my beautiful light square pawn chain, but the difference is that my opponent never played e4 and e5. So you could actually argue that white does not have as much control in the center because they don't have an advanced pawn taking up space in my territory. My opponent finally finishes their setup and they play h3, saying, okay, well, there's a bishop to be attacked. Let's go ahead and get rid of this pin. Well, I take, and they take back with the knight, and beautiful. We have a Caro-Kann like structure, and we're going to go forward with our plan. Just get our king to safety. And after queen d2 short castles, my opponent in this position, they've got their full London setup, right? And they don't know what to do, and they long castle. Why is this a mistake? Because I castle kingside, and my opponent castle queenside. We're on opposite sides. When you castle on opposite sides, you typically see a queenside pawn storm by whoever castled kingside, and a kingside pawn storm by whoever castled queenside. So in this case, I mean, who is going to be faster? It's going to be black. And here, my whole plan was to, at some point, push b5 and push all my pawns. And at the same time, I thought, okay, this king is on a file that I can transform. I can transform this file into an open file, which of course white doesn't have to make it completely open because rook c8 is going to be really catastrophic shortly. But even here, after e takes d4, I thought, okay, I'm still going to play rook c8 and go from here and launch an attack. Shame on me, because there's a much better way of doing this. You can try and pause the video really quickly to see if you would have found the better way, but the answer is c4. Like I said, you're trying to make a pawn push. It's good to have all your pawn chains going in the direction that you want to attack. And what does this also do? It makes this light square bishop even weaker. I mean, if it goes to this diagonal, it is useless. It's not even in the game. So it has to stay on this diagonal to do anything productive. And here, at least it's eyeing the h7 pawn towards my king. But then b5 comes and I'm breaking everything open. But this is why you analyze your games. And at the same time, there's a saying in chess, having a plan is better than having no plan. So my plan of going ahead and getting a semi-open file. Semi-open file means that there's one pawn on the file, but not two. This is a semi-open file. It's still good for me to be able to attack white's king. And after they play g4, they're trying to have their own attack. Like I said, pawns are going to be pushed either way. And here I go ahead and take advantage of this pin. Look at this. You cannot capture. It is illegal to capture, because if you capture, then I capture your king, and then that's just not allowed to happen in chess. So here they just get their king out of the pin, and I take the light square bishop. I know, I just said that light square bishop was basically trash, but it's still nice to eliminate a potential attacker on my king, because I'm worried about king safety. And basically, when this position develops, I play queen b6, instigating g5, which is my opponent's plan to just continue pushing everything forward. But now my knight centralizes. Look at king safety. Let's take a quick scorecard of the opening principles. Let's grade center control, developed pieces, and king safety. Center control. Okay, like we both have a pawn in the center controlling squares, and you could argue that it's relatively equal. You can't really push this pawn because I'm controlling this as well, but you know, this bishop's also covering a lot of squares. So center control may be relatively even. Developed pieces, well, both our rooks are connected and everyone is participating in the game. There's no like inactive chess piece on the board here. So center control, developed pieces, close enough to even. However, next up is king safety. How many of my pieces are attacking white's king? Here's one potential attacker. 2, 3, 4 potential attacking pieces versus 1, maybe 1.5, 2 defenders, and that is never good. And when you look at who's attacking my king, well, it's just a pawn. There's nothing else coming yet. So for that reason, I mean, my pieces are much quicker in attacking, and after h4 to try and continue the pawn storm on the king side, I just play bishop a3. My opponent has gotten out of the opening, but now they are just forgetting about pins left, right, and center, and that is their demise. And trying to get out of this, they play b3, and this is when their position starts to crumble. Now, this is another moment. This is why you analyze your games. I started to say, this position's so good for black, I just shut my brain off. The best move is by far and away rook takes c3. Why? Because if you get out of the way, then look, when you have 4 pieces attacking and 2 maybe pieces defending, you go 4 minus 2. You have 2 more attacking pieces than there are defending, and that is the magic rule of 2 or something like that, where basically if you had 2 more pieces attacking, you can sacrifice material. How do you sacrifice it? Rook takes b3. If you take that, well, good luck, because how do you actually defend after knight c3? There's no good way to defend. Obviously, I'm hitting your queen as well. If you try and move your queen out of the way, there's a very nice idea. Bunch of different ways to do it, but the most clear-cut way is bishop b2 check. There's only one legal move, queen takes, but now queen a4, and that is mate. Chef's kiss. That's beautiful. And if you try another way where you say, look, if you take my queen, I take your queen, that also doesn't work, because queen a4 and all of a sudden I'm threatening all these different discoveries. For example, if you try to just still get out of the way with the queen, then bishop c1. There's nowhere to go. You just go here and get mated. And of course, if you just try to stop the discovery with queen a2, then come on, do I really need to show you why this is winning? But okay, going back to it, rook takes c3, by far and away the best move. But again, I started shutting my brain off. Not something you should do. Do as I say, don't do as I do. But knight takes c3 is what I ended up playing. And then I realized, okay, I should have put the rook there. And I moved my rook back. But now I have an open file, and I go ahead and start taking control of it. Doubled up rooks over here. My opponent plays g6. And I try to hit the queen. And I grab a free pawn. Okay, like I said, I started shutting my brain off, but here I just grab my little umbrella pawn and I say, you can't actually hurt me, so whatever, this is fine. After knight e5, I play rook c7, and my opponent tries a little trick up their sleeve, but it doesn't even work. After knight c4, it's hanging, right? But if you take and take, there's actually a checkmate. Checkmate in 3, pause to solve, just because there's some creativity in this one and I kind of like it. But the solution here is rook takes a2, the king takes, and queen takes b3 and mate. So even if I fell for this trick, it actually wasn't a trick, it wasn't going to work, but I decided to simply take with the rook because this pawn is also pinned. What are you talking about? The king's not here, it's not pinned. Well, if you take, it's mate. so it is pinned, and basically what ends up happening, my opponent plays rook b1, and you have to ask yourself, every single move that happens on the board, what changed? What changed in this position after rook to b1 is that the rook is no longer defending d4, the queen simply takes, and this is game over. So what's the moral of the story? It's that just because you have some opening preparation and you know a few moves and what the setup is supposed to look like, you can never just ignore what your opponent is doing. Always have a plan and always think about opening principles. Do not leave your king out to dry. Always count the number of pieces attacking your king, number of pieces defending it, and vice versa. See if you have more pieces attacking your opponent's king, and that will allow you to win so many chess games. If you want to see more examples of punishing opening mistakes, then go check out this video right here where I punish someone that played the Caro-Kann, and brilliant moves were easy to find. Happy learning, everyone.